I built another ghost detector. Yes, I'm building ghost detectors for a hobby, and I had two projects in mind for such a long time, but I never came around. And I'm actually working on both of them. One I just finished like 1 hour ago, that's why I'm making this video. The other one is still in development. It involves TV signals. However, very interesting stuff. What is my new ghost detector? Well, let me introduce to you what I call the Spirit Chat or Spirit Chat Box. And what is it? Well, you may know from certain television shows they use a device that says random words sometimes. And it's not a spirit box that uses radio frequency, but this generates words. And that's basically what this thing is. It generates words, but not only that, but it also listens to you because it has a microphone up here. And it listens to you and then generates a random word answer. Words are actually predefined in the code, but it generates randomness in order to choose a word. And that randomness is generated, by the way, a computer cannot generate real randomness, so you always need an external factor in order to base on the computer to get a random result. And in this case, it uses temperature and humidity in order to generate a random answer word. And not only that, because we already have this sensor in here in the back, the temperature and humidity sensor, it also displays it on a little display here, which is in this round thing. It's a round display, and it also indicates temperature and humidity changes by flashing the LEDs and buzzing if you're not looking at it at that moment. So you can also turn off this buzzer. Yeah, so what is this thing built of? Well, of course, this is an old Bundeswehr flashlight that I picked up for a couple of bucks on a flea market recently. I was looking for something that has this, well, this round cutout in order to fit everything in there and to have my display installed in this thing. So let's see, how does this work? I will explain to you how it works, because when I turn it on, it will start listening. So you turn it on by using the side switch, the original switch of the flashlight, so I modified that a bit. Then you will have, as I said, a TFT display in here that once displays temperature and humidity, and it has this outer ring, and that outer ring is the thing you want to look at most of the time because it indicates the state of this device. When the ring is turquoise, yeah, it's turquoise, it's listening to you. So when you ask a question, the outer ring will turn purple, and it means it's generating an answer. Then it speaks the answer or the word, and this is basically how it works. And then it takes a couple of seconds to reset, and then it becomes turquoise again, and you can ask another question. Now, when temperature changes, this red LED flashes, and also the ring becomes red, and also generates a random answer. When humidity changes, the same thing, so the blue LED flashes, and the ring will turn blue, and it will also generate a random word. Let's say it like that. Yeah, so let's turn this thing on so we can see how it works. So as I said, you can, by the way, use this orange button to reset the system. And when I turn it on, it boots, and it takes a second, and then it welcomes us.
Welcome to the MC Effects Spirit Chat.
And you see it goes through the two sensors.
Perhaps.
And now it's listening. Hello?
Whoosh.
Is there someone in the room?
Yes.
Do you want to talk?
Don't ask that.
Okay, so you see, it can be quite scary. I must confess, while I was programming this thing, I was fiddling around and I was talking to this thing. And it generated quite weird answers sometimes that can be a little scary. So If you want to build this, do it on your own responsibility. So in this video I will show you how I built this thing from scratch using a lot of weird parts that go in here. How I wired this stuff up, and also I will put the code on my Patreon account. It took me almost 3 weeks in order to get this thing running code-wise, and it also maxes out the capacity of an Arduino UNO board. That's also because there is a whole list of words that can be spoken, and that takes up quite some memory. However, if you want to add anything else, it would be probably better to add a second UNO or a second Arduino board. And yeah, let's get started.
Heart, Peace and Voice of the Spirit Chat is the DF Robot Gravity Speech Synthesis module, version 2.2.0. I use an Arduino UNO board for this build. Be aware that the code takes up almost the entire 32 kilobyte of flash memory. A DHT11 that measures temperature and humidity, this LM393 microphone module with adjustable sensitivity control, a GC9A01 round TFT display, and 2 LEDs in the color of your choice. A 750 mAh LiPo battery paired with a USB charging module and a 10 microfarad 50 volt electrolytic capacitor. So as a piezo buzzer, a micro switch, 1 toggle switch and 2 150 ohm resistors for the LEDs. First I check if my speech module is willing to talk to me today by hooking it up to the Arduino board in UART mode using pin 2 and 3 and power it with 3 volts for now. Download the DF Robot Speech Synthesis library and install it to the Arduino IDE. Make sure you choose the right board in the example code menu. Only the version 2 is supported by this board. Now that I ensured the board is working, I start the layout of my circuit. Well, these 17 seconds of random coding illustration took me weeks of work, tweaking and fiddling in this code until it finally worked. So you see the mic is picking up my voice now, but also it picks up its own voice by the microphone. So I have to find a way around that using some delays. Now here is how the basic logic works. The microphone module picks up louder noise such as a human voice and sends a signal to the Arduino. The Arduino receives the signal, mutes the microphone, sets the color of the circle on the display to purple and then asks for temperature and humidity values. It uses them to generate a random value that is tied to a list of words in the code. It then sends out the signal to the speech module to speak out the chosen word while displaying it on the screen. After some seconds, the microphone gets unmuted and is ready to capture another question. Temperature and humidity are constantly measured as well. If there is a significant change in one of these values, it triggers the speech module to say out another random word. Depending if temperature or humidity changed, it lets us know by blinking the red or blue LED, so as buzzing the buzzer. The ring on the display also changes to the appropriate color.
Now let's turn this thing on, and it will take a little bit to initialize because it has to make several readings first in the humidity and temperature sensor.
Welcome to the MC Effects Spirit Chat.
This little voice indication, and now it's active. So you see this is initialized, and now you see we have a purple ring which says the microphone is now muted. Hello, how are you?
Demon.
So I'm talking with the demon. So I had some of these piezo speakers left, and I added it to the system. So now it beeps each time temperature or humidity changes. Let's try this again with some cold spray.
Phantom. Thank you.
So the electronics are done. Next step would be, find a casing to put everything in there. I was looking for something where I can fit in this round little display, and I found this thing for a couple of bucks. So I thought, let's get this with me because I can put the display in here, I can put some knobs on here, and maybe the lights on the top or on the sides or something like that. Maybe I can even add a stick or something to it. Now let's open this up, get everything out, and restore it a little bit. Some butter crepe from France. Good stuff. So now I will remove everything from the Arduino UNO that I don't use, such as these sockets here, these headers, and also the 5-volt input. I don't need that in this case. I will keep the USB port in order to make upgrades and updates. So I cut me a little piece of acrylics because I have to rise this switch up a little bit, and I poke a hole in there. I use an M3 screw. So let's put this on here first. And I was thinking about changing the scheme of it by painting it black, but I think I will keep it like this because a little rust and stuff looks pretty awesome in this case. I only made one hole. I can always glue this down as long as it is held in place. Actually, like this, this is a reset button. With that, we can now go ahead and try to install the microphone. Now the question is, do I want to have the capsule outside and then cover it with something? So I have something that is called random land drawers. I have a couple of them. I have a big tub, I have smaller ones, I have the medium one, and I have two very small ones for tiny little pieces. And what it is basically, yeah, a collection of random pieces that I did not want to throw away, so I keep them. There's a lot of weird stuff in there, boxes and whatever, and usually I find something that I'm looking for. For now I'm looking for something that I can use in order to cover up the microphone. Something like this, for example. This would be nice. Let's see. Now I have a couple of parts that could be interesting for this mic. Unfortunately this is too small. So is this. This actually would be pretty cool. Can I drill a hole this big into metal, you ask? I'm asking myself the same question without breaking anything. This is some old German army paint from the 80s that I gather on the flea market as well for very cheap. It is kind of a paint that you cannot scratch off that easily. It is probably full of lead and probably pretty toxic, but it lasts for that forever. So This is just for now. I mean, I have to solder quite a lot of stuff, but for now I just want to have an overview how it all looks together. It's a little small casing for this project, but on the other hand it looks pretty awesome when it's done, I'm pretty sure. You have the option to hook up an external speaker, and I have one, but it all takes up too much space. Well, I mean, it does not have to be in the middle, right? It could also be somewhere on the side here. Something like this, for example. Because then it all fits together nicely. So while I was fiddling around with the humidity temperature sensor, I found out that you can bend this over. I thought, well, it's stupid, but I thought this is glued to the PCB, but it is not. It's just bended over. So I can separate this, drill some holes and put this on the outside, while the rest of the PCB will be underneath the Arduino. Thanks to my randomness drawers, I found this thing, which is, I think this is snorting tobacco. This was a promotional gift on a festival, I think, years back. And what I did, I added actually a feature to it, because I drilled some holes here all around this thing, and I will mount it on top of this of the housing. And what this is I can now turn this and I can adjust the amount of air or humidity that enters, so I can bring this down a little bit when you are somewhere where there's a lot of wind or something, in order to make it less sensitive. So we can close the gates, so to speak, and make it less sensitive. Now, and I'm pretty happy about this thing, honestly, because yeah, I think this makes a pretty cool addition, because this is mostly metal, and I will use these two screws from the Arduino to mount this on top here. Like this. So this is how this is going to be mounted. And then I have enough space here to run the cables wherever I like. So I hoped I could get around this. Of course, you know, the Arduino board works with 5 volts supplied by the USB port that powers all the auxiliaries. I tried it with 4 volts and it worked, but I tried it with battery power now, which is 3.7 volts, and it seems to be barely not enough to power it, at least to get the same readings as in my test setup. So I decided to use a step-up transformer to make sure everything is powered via 5 volts, so we get the same readings as in the test setup. I use a little battery charge unit board that is responsible to charge this battery safely. The output goes into the input of the step-up transformer, and I will regulate this up to 5 volts, which comes out here and then goes to the board and to all the auxiliaries. So we have power. Next, I need to finish drilling the holes in the thing. I will make me some pre-made cutouts for the holes in CorelDRAW, print them out, glue them on, and then, yeah, I'm way more precise. Support. Let's see, I think I go with the idea of putting both LEDs on this side, because it looks weird. The other thing would be nice, it reminded me of a of a Ghostbusters PKE meter, having these like that, but I actually like the idea better now of putting both on one side, because it looks more complex somehow, you know, so you don't really know what it is. Well, you would never know what it is anyways. rubber hood to put on here, and then it looks really military. Yes. Now I learned to cut only things that I really don't want and leave the rest for now. I can always remove this later. So I have some foam here, a little cube that will fit in here, and I will top it off with a little piece of this mesh wire, just because it looks cool. Doesn't serve any purpose, but looking cool. So. Yes. Stick it in there. Yes. Okay, so I decided I'd try to use UV resin in order to fix this down, but I will fix them down on the outside. Let's see if this works. Close this up without too much trouble. Almost everything is in place. We have two more things to install. The hard piece, the microphone, and the hard piece of the speech module. The speech module came with a special cable. Where is it? Let's sit right here. Of course, when I would have more space, a bigger case or something, I would preferably use a PCB to solder this properly onto a PCB without too much cabling, but I want to keep this thing as compact as possible because my other ghost detectors are quite big and they take up quite a bit of space in your backpack when you're going somewhere, and this thing should be a little bit smaller, and also you're always evaluating. So I try to keep this thing as small as possible, and it also of course gives it a pretty awesome look when it's so small and it can talk and stuff like that, so it will be very high tech. At least it will look very high tech. It will look actually pretty low tech, but it's stuffed with high tech, so that's cool. So I soldered everything up. I checked everything twice. I checked single components on a separate Arduino board just to see if it works, and also with the cabling and all this stuff, and it worked. I hooked everything up, I powered it on, I charged the battery, I turned it on, and well, all the LEDs are turning on, but nothing happened. So I was panicking, of course. I turned everything off, I desoldered the battery just to be sure not to shorten anything out with the, you know, with the actual metal case or something. And I tried and fiddled for hours. And somewhat everything powers on, but nothing happens. After a long research and measuring everything through, I thought, okay, let's just hook up the Arduino board to my computer over the USB port. So I did that, and suddenly everything booted and everything worked. So it was not an actual short circuit or problem with the wiring. I thought it is a power problem. So I thought, okay, let's measure everything through again. I snipped off all the power connections. I resoldered them directly to the Arduino board in order to have common ground, what we do have anyways. I measured everything through and it just did not work. I soldered the battery in. I tested it several times with USB, without USB.
The only thing that always worked is when I hooked it up via USB directly to the computer. So I was reading a lot online now about this issue, and apparently it's a common issue, but I never had it before. And I don't know if you had it, but it is very confusing. But here is what actually happens. Everything draws current at one single point when you turn this thing on. So there is a drop of current, which can be enough to provoke the Arduino board from booting. So when the Arduino board just idles and does not boot, nothing will happen. So all the parts are on and everything is working, but there is nothing going on because the board is not booted. Now comes out, there is a very simple fix. Delay the boot sequence for just a tiny amount of time in order to power everything up and then boot the Arduino. And well, it's easy. It's just a little tiny capacitor right here. It's a 10 microfarad. I used a 50 volt capacitor, electrolytic capacitor, and you solder the positive joint to the reset pin of your Arduino board and the negative pin to ground. What this does is very simple. Of course, it charges the capacitor when I'm turning this thing on, and it delays the boot sequence of the Arduino for a tiny little bit of time, which is just enough to power everything on and then boot the Arduino. And now it finally works. So as I cut off everything, I have to rip out everything again, solder everything up properly to make it look neat and nice, and then this thing should finally work. Okay, so here you can see this little capacitor. I hooked everything up. I just wired in the switch to the little beeper. I will glue this down, of course, but for now I will just put everything in here and then try to close it up. So this is secured in place, which is pretty cool as well. So I can open this up like that and then I can stand it. Oh yeah, I'm more than happy with that. This is pretty awesome. So the very last thing missing, some labels, and I got me an old Dymo thing, and we need some labels that are appropriate for the actual look of this thing.
Supernatural. Pray.
And here it is, the Man Cave Effects Spirit Chat Box.
I'm not a ghost hunter. I'm not hunting for ghosts usually, but I thought this thing I have to test out. So I am here at a cemetery. It's 2nd of October 2024. It's about 8:30, and let's see if we can talk with someone.
Welcome to the MC Effect Spirit Chat.
Where are you?
Broken.
Broken. Is there anything broken here? Are you here?
Almost.
Almost. It's not dark enough, maybe. Where can I see you?
Heaven.
In heaven. Can you give me a sign? Can you give me a sign?
Scary.
Where are you?
Dead.
Dad. Can you give me a sign?
Broken.
Do you want to talk?
Probably.
Can we talk?
Forbidden.
Forbidden to talk. Can you give me a sign?
Right.
Right. Can you give me a sign? Can you give me a sign?